Welcome to Bloody. Welcome to Bloody Good Horror.
Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing a little Korean ditty, John, named Parasite.
Is Diddy, is that offensive? I don't know.
It's not a monster movie, which you might believe from the title. We'll find out exactly what it is here soon, but first up, joining me tonight from Hotlanta, Georgia, please welcome Cece.
Hello.
From Manhattan, New York City, the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com, please welcome John Schnars.
Hello, Eric.
And last up tonight, from Chicago, Illinois, he's the man of the hour tonight. His plans are about to come to fruition. Please welcome Joe to the show.
I've done nothing. I planned nothing.
You'd be the world's greatest con man if that were true, and then we all
Can you
just
imagine
switch show
everybody
up.
gets there on Saturday, it's just an empty bar that closed down 3 years ago.
Yeah,
Jesus.
and it's all just a plan to steal
I'm
our
sure they could still make it fun.
organs.
Just I drive by in the minivan, say, fuck you, and then drive off.
Well, Joe, it's an exciting week because we are T-minus 3 days from the first Bloody Good Horror fan meetup in 2 years.
Yeah, it's a big one. So this Saturday, September 21st, we're calling it Bloody Good Horror Spooktoberfest. You'll probably, this show will be out in a couple days, I'm assuming, so this will be your kind of last warning. But 4 p.m. on Saturday, Spooktoberfest, it's at Crown Liquors here in Chicago. We're gonna have Shelton doing his spooky trivia. There's gonna be giveaways. We're gonna do some raffles. They're gonna be just a bunch of fun. We're gonna have our new design for sale on a t-shirt that CC did. It's beautiful. We're gonna have posters, which hopefully will be coming in the mail today or tomorrow. A whole bunch of stuff. Patreon meetup Friday night. You've probably already signed up and gotten info for that, so I'm not going to bother you with that. And then next month, we haven't really talked about it because we've been focusing on the gathering. But next month, October 19th, we're doing the second annual Bloody Good Horror virtual 5K. So that'll be the entire weekend, Saturday and Sunday. You go out, run a 5K. Send us a screenshot of your results, and we'll send you some fun swag. And it's just kind of a cool way to kind of get to know some of the listeners and kind of build a community. We had a really good turnout last year, so I'm really looking forward to it this year. It should be a lot of fun. But yeah, this Saturday, the big thing, we're gonna be there. CC will be there in spirit. The rest of the podcast fellows will be there, and then a bunch of our writers too. So it should be a good time.
Very exciting. We should also mention Friday nights we're doing a meetup, a super secret special meetup with patrons of the show. We've got, I think it's safe to say, more people RSVP'd for that than we had expected.
Yeah, there's going to be about 50 of us, which is crazy. I mean, I think originally we were estimating like maybe 20, 25, but yeah, I am excited. I should mention, because one of our listeners sent in a question asking, Saturday's event is 21 and over. It's at a bar. It's their rules. It's not really something we can do anything about. So, we should have mentioned that before, but honestly, I didn't even think about it.
I mean, we're all so old.
Yeah.
Why would you think about it, Joey?
Wait, was it because the listener was under 21, or
one of our
they're bringing
listeners'
children?
younger brother wanted to come, and he
Oh.
was only 19. And she actually called the bar just to confirm, and yeah, they're it's a 21 and over type thing. So yeah.
How
Sorry,
awesome
guys.
would that be if there were people trying to get into our event with fake IDs?
Wonderful. Be like that episode of It's Always Sunny where they just start serving minors.
Oh, good times. I'm very excited. I've seen, if you're within driving distance of this thing and you're interested, you should definitely come out. I've heard a lot of people be like, oh, I'll catch you guys next time, which, Joe, I think is a little presumptuous.
Yeah, yeah. And, if you don't come out this time, why the hell would we be motivated to do it again? Jerks. Oh,
uh,
oh, 3 people came out this time. Let me put this effort into it again, and maybe we'll get 5.
it's gonna be cool though. We did 2 years ago. Obviously, we did our big 10-year celebration. So this is in some ways our sort of, hey, we made another 2 years, guys. 12-year extravaganza. So yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody and just to get to thank people, face to face for their support and stuff. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
I will tell you because I will be the Vanna White to John Shelton's
Oh.
Pat Sajak. I guess that's the right. I'm doing this metaphor correctly. I've seen the trivia, or he's been sending me some snippets. I think it's gonna outdo 2 years ago. I think we're
Nice.
going new level on the trivia here.
How difficult is it? Because this time around, we're not charging to get in. It'll be $5 per team or person, however you want to do it, to get into the trivia. We're kind of hoping for a little more normie participation.
All right. Well, you probably should have told him that right up front.
Or
but
100% did. There are multiple emails stating this.
No. So from what I've seen, I just mean that there's more. Let's say there's more multimedia aspects in play.
All right.
Look, all the best trivia is really not. I mean, it is about
There-
knowing some random
There's got to
shit,
be a
but
mix, right? Of
you
like,
gotta, you have to be able to guess just like what the hell's going on.
yeah. Well,
so.
you got your easy ones, and then you got your, more advanced ones, John.
It's definitely spooky related, right? Like if you don't know, if you've never seen a horror movie, you're gonna have a bad
Well,
time.
why are you there?
What a
Well,
weird
yeah.
event to go to.
Right,
Yeah,
that's what
I
I'm saying.
agree. I mean, look, Crown Liquors, man. Maybe people are just rolling up off the street. Who knows?
Well, that's
So-
kind of what we're hoping for. We're hoping to pick up a few listeners who don't know what the hell's going on. So we'll see. We'll see.
What is this?
Should we
I
hand out?
just want
Should we hand out?
spectacular.
Should we hand out CDs like we did at Horror Hound in like 2009?
Absolutely. I'll jump right on that. I just want 9 months from now a little Spooktoberfest baby to pop up. I just want,
top of your list.
I want somebody to
God.
find love and make love this Saturday night.
Interesting.
I want romance to happen.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
I'll
Sounds
marry
good.
someone this weekend. I am certified. I've got the paperwork. I will make it happen.
That's right. Can
Why?
you just
don't
do
even
it?
know to, need to
I'm
go to
really
Vegas.
sad that
What?
Go ahead. Sorry, Cece.
Oh boy.
She said. Sorry. She's done.
Yeah.
She's out.
Oh well, I mean, I was starting, but it's okay. I said I was really sad that although I'm missing out in general, I'm also missing out that Joe and Kyle can't perform joint marriages since they're both ordained.
Is he ordained as well? Interesting.
You guys could marry.
Yes.
You guys could marry each other and be each other's ministers at the same time.
Link arms.
Yes.
Look
Don't make
each
it-
other in the eye.
Don't make it creepy, Eric.
Oh, that made it creepy. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's yeah. If you want more info on the meetup, again, it's in Chicago. BloodyGoodHorror.com. All that information is there. Check it out, and hope to see you there. This is it.
Mhm.
This is the final countdown, Joe.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's been going in my head nonstop. Joe,
Yeah, what's up, man?
speaking of drinking,
Mm-hmm.
what are we drinking this week?
Beer guts.
Beer. There's going to be a lot of it this weekend. Thanks to our good listener Elisa and the good folks at 21st Amendment Brewery. I should have mentioned them when we were talking about it, but yeah, they're going to have a ton of beers on tap. I'm very excited about it. But this week we're talking about a movie called Parasite, which is a Korean film, right? Correct? Somebody nod.
Yes.
Tell me I'm not
affirmative.
racist.
Yes.
And oddly enough, some ties to the beautiful city of Chicago that will be descending on this weekend. So in honor of that, quick thing. It's about a family that kind of cons their way into this rich family's house and does their whole thing. So I picked a beer from a Chicago brewery, which I'm a big fan of. And if you come out this weekend, you can probably track down some of their beers. It's from the good folks at Maplewood Brewery in Chicago. The beer I picked of theirs is Charlatan, which, yeah, it works. So this is a pale ale, which I've obviously done a lot of. But pale ales are usually a little more mild on the hop side than an IPA, but this one is a little more hop assertive. To be honest, I have no idea what makes the difference between like a pale ale and an IPA, because this one I would when I taste it, I drink it, I say this is an IPA. I say that out loud. A lot of pineapple, a lot of citrus, a little bit of like honey in the flavor. Not super overpowering, but definitely, you get the hops in here. It's delicious. I'm a very big fan of it. Comes in at I lost the percentage. I think it's like 6.5% alcohol, if I remember right. 6.1. So, a little bit up there. But there's Ubers all over the city of Chicago. Take one of those, or a divvy bike if you want. Do what you got to do. But Maplewood, everything they put out is great. I definitely recommend them. If you're coming out this weekend, I would check out the brewery if you have time. Maplewoodbrew.com is their website, and big thumbs up from me.
Very exciting.
Yeah, very. I could tell you were like foaming at the mouth.
I was looking at something.
I'm gonna
Joe.
have 6 of those and then get on a divvy bike and do a little tour around the loop.
Well, John, you do the bike rentals in New York, right?
You guys
Oh,
aren't.
yeah, dude.
You guys
Every
aren't
day,
gonna. You
to and
guys aren't.
from work.
You guys aren't gonna make me ride a bike.
Yeah, he
are
rolled
you?
up too. I want to see Eric on a bike. I need photos and a video.
I'm good.
John and I feel like you should get the weekend membership, John, and you and I can we'll just roll around town together.
When I think of like drunk John on a bike, I picture like Kermit. Like Kermit's on a bike and he's like big wide handles and he's going like this.
His legs are just like
It's a little worse than that.
He's just having a lot of fun, like way too much fun.
It's not wildly out of the realm.
I was really worried, John, when you left the restaurant when you and I met up in New York. I was really worried about you getting home. I was like, oh my God. Please just get home, okay?
We did slug back some beers. So
that seems to usually be how like goodbyes with John go. Like you throw him in a cab and you're like, that could be the last time I ever see that guy.
I give him 50-50.
Yeah.
I'm remarkably resilient, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely drunk biked back to the train. So I'm there with you, John. I get it.
It's not always the best decision making. I did have my helmet on, CC. Just
That's true.
I'm
maybe
safe
your aerodynamic body just, you kind of like bounce and keep going.
Your smooth, hairless Scandinavian body is what Cece's trying to say.
Yeah.
I wasn't going that far, but okay.
I love it if John was having dinner with Cece and her father and walked out, took off his shirt, and just got down to like bike shorts.
They're looking at him. He's like, no, it's fine. I'll get home faster this way.
All right, it was nice meeting you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
This
draft
is how
off.
this works, guys.
I'm gonna
big
draft off a truck. All right. Well, that went an interesting place I wasn't expecting. All right, guys. It is time. Let's take a quick break and review Parasite.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. John Schnars,
Yes, Eric.
I have a question for you.
Ooh, do tell.
This week, when you texted Joe and I that we were, quote, too light on It Chapter 2, I'd like to point out a movie you haven't seen. You mentioned that you only felt that way because 2 of your boner friends said that it was bad. Did they also go to Duke? That's my question.
One did, yes.
I knew it. Of course, I knew it.
I never took you for the kind of guy that would fall to peer pressure, John.
Yeah, I like
Hold
this.
on.
I wanted to bring that conversation up specifically because I just wanted to point out that John trusts the horror opinion of 2 dudes he went to college with over the people that he's podcasted with about horror movies
Hold
for
on. All right,
literally
all right.
12 years.
Stand,
No,
hold on.
you don't get a
Before
rebuttal.
we get into
That's-
this, John, I need one question answered. What ethnicity are their significant others? That's what I want to know. Just curious.
No, I'm not going to get into that. What I will say is one of the people, Eric, is a lady.
I have my
So,
answer.
Okay, a lady can
you're
be a boner.
assuming I
That's
only
fine.
have man friends. But no, the other point that I made is that I said everybody else on the show except Eric was being nice because Eric was clearly obsessed with the movie, and I think they wanted to it didn't really want to confront you in a way that maybe you needed to be confronted.
Here's where you're
in this
mistaken,
situation.
John. You're mistaken that I want feedback on the shows that you can't be bothered to show up to.
Hmm.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I like it.
I will watch the movie at some point. I am not rushing out to the theater based solely on the Bloody Good Horror review that I listened to, and then I got some additional feedback afterward.
No, right. We've only podcasted about movies for 12 years. I don't know why you should trust us, so it's fine.
Mm.
I get it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, but you all convinced me that I didn't need to rush out to the theater to see the movie.
Well, yeah, I don't think you were listening to the same show then. So
yeah. All right.
You heard it
Anyway.
from our own member. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
all right, guys.
Uh,
John, all
yes,
that is
sir.
to say, please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, as I mentioned earlier, I've been drinking a little bit, so I'm gonna draft off Joe here tonight with the word charlatan.
Oh, this makes me so happy, John. I love it when we coordinate.
That's CHARLATAN, charlatan, a person falsely claiming to have a special knowledge or skill, a fraud. I liked some of the synonyms here. There's only definition. I was surprised. Quack, one here I've never seen. Mountebank, mountebank, fraud, fake, humbug, hoodwinker, or a hoaxer. Charlatan comes to us from the Italian, which I would not have guessed. Chiarle, chiarlare. I don't know. I don't read Italian, obviously. But
Clearly.
the verb chiarlare. I don't know.
You
Uh-huh.
fooled me, John.
Yeah, no, I thought you had it great.
It-
Keep going.
But the verb means to babble.
Hmm.
So there you go. It goes into chiarlantano, which becomes charlatan in the 17th century. Yeah, so charlatan. Yeah, I mean, Joe kind of teed it up here. Parasite. This is, I want to say, the 5th film, maybe 6th, by Bong Joon-ho.
Is that it? Hmm.
Probably best known to us here on the podcast as the director of Snowpiercer. He's done a bunch of other sort of big
did
genre
he-
things, as well as just some other.
Did he
awesome
also do I Saw the Devil?
No,
What is?
that
Didn't he do like some kind of vampire movie starring the dude who's the dad in this movie? Or did so? Who,
no somebody. You are correct that the dad in this movie is the main character in Thirst. That's the movie you're
Thirst.
thinking of.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, the guy who plays the dad in this movie is Kang Ho Song. He is in virtually all of the director's films.
Yeah.
So the host is like the other big one. I don't know that we ever actually did an episode on it. And sorry, he actually directed way more. He has 14 directing credits. Some of those are short. So he's probably done about 7 or 8 features. The host, Okja, which was a straight to Netflix or a Netflix original, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so Parasite, Joe kind of covered it, but essentially here we meet this family of 4. It's 2 teenage kids, a brother and sister. The brother's sort of like the entry point to the film, but we meet this family. They're sort of a hard luck family. They are living in the basement of this basement apartment in a not super nice part of town. It's it's weird. I mean, there's an open question. We'll have to get into it, like whether or not they are quote unquote good people. Like they're not portrayed as necessarily like salt of the earth. It's very not American in that way because we're not immediately meant to sympathize with them necessarily. They're definitely, yeah, they're just regular people that are just going about their lives, and the kids are trying to make their way, but they don't have any sort of leg up. They don't have any sort of, their parents are not paid. They're not what are they called? Snowplow parents. Have you guys seen this
They're
concept?
living a hard scrabble life there, John, in this
Yeah.
Korean what would you call it? Like a urine alley.
It is we definitely see a lot of urine in the alley. Yes.
Yeah.
But in any event, The son, through his friend, gets introduced to a family where he essentially becomes an English tutor. He fakes his way to becoming the English tutor for this rich family. He then realizes or convinces the mom of the family that they need an art teacher slash art therapist for the younger brother. And so essentially now what happens
Well,
is
he realizes they're loaded and are willing to just pay whatever and not really paying attention to what's going on around them, basically.
well, and they have plenty of in-house help, right? So he then gets his sister this job working for the family as well, and the two of them then scheme to get their mother and father to replace the driver and the housekeeper.
And meanwhile, all the time, not giving away that they're related. They're basically saying like, "Oh, my uncle's cousin, like, or friend is this part." You know, like they don't. They're trying to make it seem like it's all just kind of coincidence that they're all ending up here, but it's all very intentional.
Yeah, I mean they're running a very aggressive, not super complicated, but definitely high wire grift that they are running on this rich family.
That would have been a good word of the day. You probably used that before.
Well, I did. I looked up grift. It's just not a good, definition. But yeah, I mean, and that's the setup, right? And so the rest of the film is really follows these two families. It's two families of a daughter and a son. In the case of the rich family, the kids are younger, but the brother, who is the English tutor, starts to kind of form a relationship, with the younger daughter who's in high school. And the boy, who's like 10 or 11, there's just like a bunch of wacky shit that's gone on. Like there's this incident where he saw a ghost potentially, or he thought he saw a ghost and had a seizure.
Well, no, he saw the dude.
Well, I know, spoiler alert, that, yeah. But so, yeah, I mean, that kind of like bleeds in. Eventually you kind of come to realize there's a little bit more going on at the house and around this family than and that, again, tees up kind of the rest of the action.
All right, Joe.
So I knew nothing about this movie going in. I'm not even sure how we kind of discovered this. I think, John, you had recommended it.
This has been getting a lot. So we should mention this won the sort of like top prize at the Cannes Film Festival this year, and the director, this Bong Joon-ho is like top 10 working directors when you want to talk about sort of people whose films get sort of like critical attention.
All right, yes or no? That would have been fun.
No, but people have been talking about this movie.
I need a full synopsis of how you discovered this as well. But thanks.
All right.
So anyway, I was going as completely blind, and it's 2 hours and 12 minutes. Which first thing I do is I turn it on, I look at that, I see it's subtitled. I'm like, what the fuck, John?
There was much lamentation when we saw the duration.
No, like there were literal text messages being like, "What the fuck, John?" Like, so that was not in Joe's head.
Guilty.
So it's you get pretty deep in it, and you start to realize like this isn't super horror-y. Like it's not. All fairness, it's not much of a horror movie. But that aside, I ended up really loving this movie, like more than I thought I possibly could. A 2 hour and 12-minute subtitled movie. Obviously the characters, it's hard to tell if they're good or bad actors. I assume they're good, but you're reading subtitles. I don't know what they're saying, but the dialogue between like specifically the sort of, we'll call them like the con artist family, like they're so sort of likable, where I kind of talked about this over email. Like, I feel like in a typical movie like this, you get a family and they're all kind of jerks and you kind of dislike them and they're at each other's throat, kind of out for themselves. Like this, it almost had like kind of a warm, like they're doing something wrong, but they're kind of doing it to get by, and like they're helping each other out and they're looking out for each other. Like it was, as weird as it sounds, like it was almost sweet in the way that they interacted. And the family that they're conning, like they're not the typical rich family where it's like the father's cheating on the mother and the mother's a drunk and like everybody's a scumbag. Like it's all just, it's very relatable, I think. Even, obviously, except for John, like none of us are rolling in dough. You still kind of, at no point are you like, those are terrible people. Good for them that they're being conned.
It's a very interesting like tightrope they're walking with this sympathy
Yeah.
in this movie for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, kind of when things lift off in like the last half hour or something, like I didn't see it coming, but it felt very natural. So yeah, I mean, all around, I really, really liked this movie.
Cool. Cece.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm pretty much on the same boat as everybody else. I didn't know anything about this going in, so I was a little surprised that it wasn't straight up horror-ish or more, I guess, just leaning into the like violence that we normally look for. But I liked the the undertone of like, I mean, really, when you think about it, it's a really disturbing story or plot. And I liked that you don't really know who you're supposed to be rooting for, and that it's a pretty symbiotic relationship that has its problems on both sides. So, the dark kind of black comedy of it was entertaining. So yeah, I liked it.
John.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I didn't know a ton about this. I had seen the trailer, and obviously, I think I've seen most of at least the sort of last couple of films by the director. And he's someone, as I mentioned, that I get really excited anytime a new movie's coming because you're going to get something really strange. I don't know if you guys have seen Okja, which is the last movie he did.
No.
Or obviously you've seen Snowpiercer. His films have a very specific voice to them, and that is carried through in this film, even though this film in a lot of ways is way more quote unquote normal, right? So it's about regular people.
Well, I mean, nobody in this, there isn't a train car full of men slapping their nude torsos with dead fish in this movie. So
yeah, I mean,
you guys didn't watch the after credits scene, apparently.
Yeah. No, but most of the rest of his films are genre or more heavily genre in some way. So this is, I guess you could say a departure in that it's more normal. I think you're definitely, so this is getting marketed. I think they're having a hard time marketing this film because it is definitely being marketed to the horror community. It's sort of how it hit our radar.
Yeah.
I agree. It's very much a black comedy thriller, but then it also has, I mean, the
I would call it
parts
a
that
black
are dark
comedy. I don't even, I mean, like it's a thriller for like the last half an hour, maybe.
Well, and
there's a lot of tense moments for
yes,
sure.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. There's a lot of like the sequence where they're under the table in and of itself, like you don't find that kind of scene outside of
It's a comedy.
No.
That's like a comedy setup, right? Where like the family comes home and they're like, oh, like do we're spinning the plate, like we're making the noodles in the basement.
Yeah, I think the difference, or where this is like a black comedy, is like when things start going awry, you are thinking to yourself, who is going to get killed or maimed, and how many people are going to get killed or maimed.
Right.
And
well,
so,
yeah, you're just waiting for it to go real south, and it takes a while to get there.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the other thing. So I really like this. I like this movie. I almost want to go back and rewatch it because it's disorienting in a way. I mean, anytime you're watching a foreign film, there's a period of sort of adjustment. And once I kind of knew what I was kind of watching, I don't know. It just, I sort of eased into the movie in a way that, I don't know, his more genre inflected films allow you to do more easily because you have other things to kind of grab onto. The point I would make, and I would love to hear what you guys think about it, because it's the thing that I mentioned over email, but it really kind of surprised me, is this film is in a lot of ways a straight up alternate telling of the Us story, right? So you've got instead of sort of the racial classes or sort of racial elements that we see in the Jordan Peele film, here it's way more specifically focused on class and sort of wealth.
Don't forget too, we talked about Us is very much a class focused movie as well, like more so than Get Out.
It is, right, because both of the families are the same race
and they went to this like nice college, and like there's a lot made of that stuff.
Yeah, so here you have all that same stuff, except remove all of the sort of more genre elements and any of the supernatural stuff. But you have people living in basements, literally, and then even more explicitly living underneath the house, as is sort of revealed later in the film. Um, and you have these people living above that are sort of quote unquote blissfully unaware of the hardship that goes on around them, and then the way that then infects their lives and leads to chaos. So I don't know. I love this movie. I wouldn't say I was shocked. I was surprised how closely it mirrored that film and that they're both coming out in the same year. Like that says so much about the society and like the sort of time that we're living in.
It absolutely feels like a snapshot of the political moment of 2019. Like this movie is very saying very pointed things about rich people and class structure and the relationship between rich people and lower classes. And while I think it is not entirely unsympathetic to the rich family here, I think it's only slightly so. You know what I mean? Like it definitely throws you a bone in that direction, but it has a lot more thoughts towards them negatively than it does positively, and that shows up in the way that the lens we see them through in this.
Well, so it's funny, and Joe kind of brought this up, right? Like I agree that
To be fair, I'm bringing
and
a lot to it.
well, and it's funny because so in Us, right, you could argue that the underclass or the sort of I can't even remember what they're called now, the subterranean family, are they're treated like really poorly, right? Like the tethered, right? Like they are clearly signified as less than, and just I mean the dad can't even speak. I mean most of them don't speak. Here, because our entry point to this film is through the underclass family, and so you kind of you attach yourself to them. They
Right.
are the vector for the film. They're the characters that we care about in a lot of ways. But to Joe's point, like the rich family, and this is true in Us as well, like they're not coded as bad necessarily. The mom is definitely the most clueless, but the dad is kind of like he's like a wealthy dad that like but
They're not
you don't even
necessarily coded as bad, but because of the way the movie is presenting this poor family as the main characters, you don't feel really bad that they're grifting them. Like it's kind of just
No.
fun. It's also because it's a comedy. Like it's just kind of fun to watch.
yeah.
Until it kind of really goes south. But even then, you're kind of like, well, they're just kind
Yeah.
of trying to protect themselves at that point.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the not being able to speak thing in the tethered, John, because I also didn't understand a word anyone said in this movie. Like,
That's
both the
a,
above ground and below ground
that's a
people.
subtitle joke.
Wow.
Yeah. What I think is really like a testament to how good this movie is that I didn't know anything about this movie going in. Literally, I figured with a name like Parasite, it was like a monster movie or something, right? And so
I kept waiting for
I know,
like the
I was
infection
waiting
or
for some,
something.
like,
exactly. And so I
yeah,
go
some
into it.
weird infection and
I have no idea what it is, and it is a very slow burn. But what I noticed right away is it's like very, very funny. Like this is a super funny movie, and I've always found it difficult to, sorry, gotta sneeze things going on. I always find it very difficult to like read comedy through subtitles and through like cultural lenses that I don't necessarily have a lot of context on, right? Because like you're just missing out on those things that you need in order to understand why things are funny. But it's the comedy in this film is so like universal and accessible in a lot of ways, and I think the actors, especially the family, are all so good.
You're talking about the Grifter family.
Yeah, and like right away, this whole scene where like they're spraying the alley for bugs, and he's like, "No, leave the window open. It's free fumigation."
Oh my God.
And they're
Like, I
eating,
was-
and the gas is just coming in the house, and like, we should point out they have a weird. I would love to know Korean listeners. I know our listener Jared lives there. There's a toilet like 4 feet off the ground, up on like a ledge. I gotta know what the deal with that is. Is that a thing, or maybe it's because they're underground?
Yeah,
And
I
where
think it
the
was just
pipes
the
are.
way that room was constructed. It was super wacky.
Very weird, but I'm kind of into it. I want to know more. Anyway, this movie is incredibly funny. It is very. It's not necessarily slow in that there's a lot of stuff happening, but it's slow to get to the thrillery parts of
Mm.
it. And when I say slow, I mean legit almost an hour and 50 minutes until you really understand why we're doing this for this show. Like straight up, it is pretty much just a black comedy up until that point, and pretty funny and pretty dark, but really doesn't veer into genre territory until I think I texted you guys last night. It was like an hour and 56 minutes or something like that.
You did text the exact timestamp.
Into like a 2 hour and 20-minute movie. It didn't bother me that much because it's so entertaining. But I do think like, just for my sensibilities, like I could have gone with it being a little shorter. And I think there's some pretty simple cuts you could have made without sacrificing too much. That said, though, like once it kind of gets to the finale, it builds up to this finale that is just like totally batshit crazy. It's not what I was expecting to happen. I think it's also not black and white. Like I feel like a Western movie would have had a very clear, like there's kind of some murders that happen, and I think they would have gone down in a more, I think they would have gone down in a more clear-cut version way in a Western version, so that we knew exactly who we should be feeling sympathetic with. Whereas this is kind of just like everybody snapping and a bunch of crazy shit happening all at once, and which leaves the ending kind of ambiguous in a way that I actually enjoyed, because it just was unexpected for me. And we can kind of talk about that and how we feel about some of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, like overall, it's just a very funny movie. And I think, like John, you're talking about the table scene. What he's so good at is just creating tension out of these scenarios, even though it's not like a scary movie for most of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, go ahead.
Scary in terms of like, scary in terms of like what people feel they need to do to survive, or like what people actually have to do to survive. And so like I liked that the whole the whole plot of the movie is a very under the skin but still very visceral motivation, which is super creepy, because also like regardless if you have live-in help, or if you just hire a handyman or whoever, like you invite people into your home all the time, and like you have no idea who they really are, or like what they're trying to do, or what their regular lives are about. So I mean I really liked that, and that was the super creepy part to me.
Yeah, I mean, Eric, you made the point about sort of where, like, the ways that this movie feels different or would have been different, if made by a Western director. Like, I can't even imagine an American director making a movie like this.
Well, I always bring this up, but like there's elements that remind me of Very Bad Things, like a movie where just a bunch of, the only difference being in that movie, those people have a bad thing happen to them that they're not intending, whereas in this movie, like it's largely brought on by themselves, right? Because like they're intentionally trying to grift this family, but it's similar in that they eventually end up in way over their heads and end up doing something that's beyond what they would normally do, or maybe not. They seem to get to it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I just feel like and we've kind of been hitting on it in a couple different ways. I think the care with which the characters are drawn at each level, I don't know. I don't know that you would see that in a script that ends up getting made. Largely, I don't think that's a reflection of American directors necessarily. I think it's when they have to go through the sort of studio and marketing, complex that ends up churning these movies out. It's just rare that you see a director who has the latitude to kind of just make a movie that's, I don't want to say understated, because that's not necessarily the right way to phrase it, but that has this type of sensibility to it. It's funny, and this will be like somewhat of an aside, but I watched The Favorite recently, which is Yorgos Lanthimos, who did
your boy
Yorgos. Yeah, but this movie to me, like that's the only thing. So, and not necessarily The Favorite, but like The Lobster or The Killing of a Sacred Deer, like those are movies that feel similar to this movie in a way that you just don't see American filmmakers making things like that right now. I don't know if that, maybe there are, and they're just like indie and they're not hitting our radar, but I don't know. That was like one comparison that I drew.
Do we want to talk about the weird foreplay in this movie?
Absolutely. Because I didn't think it was that weird, Eric.
It's just
Neither
like,
did I.
it was a little weird. I don't know. And then he was asking her to put the underwear on. Like that was like, whoa, okay. Like that was funny because she was so horrified by it earlier in the movie. So then in that scene, for her to just be like, okay, was like, okay, dude.
Well, and I liked how they made a point that it was cheap.
Yeah.
It was. I don't really want to get into
underwear. I don't know that. Like, I don't know.
It was part of his.
You're coming off as a little judgy, Eric. I'm just saying.
It was more. Yeah,
I
he
mean,
had a his.
listen,
his
I'm not the one, making big bucks. So maybe I wear cheap underwear. You don't know.
Well,
Like,
I-
I don't know
apparently,
anything
I don't know
about
what
it.
makes expensive underwear. So
That scene was so funny though. How indignant like they were like. So, the basically the daughter who's she's been hired as an art quote unquote art therapist, which she isn't. Like she's just faking it based on what she learned on the internet.
she's
And
good at art. Just to
she
be clear,
then
they
she
set that up.
she gets a ride home from the rich guy's driver, and she starts to figure out like, oh, maybe I can get this guy fired and get my dad in here. She does this by leaving her underwear in the limo, which the next day the dad sees, and so he comes home and has this just completely insane conversation with his wife, where basically it's like the suggestion being that he's like having relations with ladies in his limo after hours, or what? It's not even a limo. It's
like
like
while
a car.
doing cocaine, like that's.
Yeah, but then it's just like, yeah, but they immediately jump to like he's a sex pervert, and I'm just like, I mean, it's just it's a car, like it's not.
Well, I think that's cultural. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
probably,
I
but
think
it's
that's
just funny.
cultural.
It's
Yeah.
very funny. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. If someone was using my car and I found out they
Right.
were like using it as their sex pad,
Well,
I'd be pretty annoyed
There's
too.
a lot of
Oh
funny.
no, I mean, I would be super annoyed. I'm just saying, I think, that's
There's actually like
also
several
how they got there so
interesting.
fast.
There's several interesting like cultural sex things going on here. For starters, like nobody seems weirded out that this college age kid is all the time making out with this high school girl that he's tutoring.
But
Well, I don't
that
think
is
they
all
know,
happening.
right?
Yeah, that's all happening.
The dad
somewhat
knows.
behind the scenes.
He told her, and the dad was like, "Oh, dude, if you marry her, we'll get this house." Like
Oh, well,
Oh
his
yeah, I guess
parents-
his family
yeah.
don't give a f.
Well, I don't think he says like they're making. I think he just says like she really likes me, like and.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure there
Eric.
was an insinuation because the dad was
Yeah.
like, "Cool, dude, go for
No,
it."
I guess you're right.
This
I don't-
family
how
was
old
trying
is
to-
he though? I don't know.
He's. I think he's supposed to be in college, but he's not. So he's like 20-ish. But Eric, like I thought, like the family's fine grifting the shit out of this rich family.
Yeah.
You think they would care about like
Well,
the son
and it's
making out,
it's
like, with
absolutely part of the comedy because I think there's several scenes too where the father will like find out something that's going on and he'll give this like stern fatherly look and you're expecting him to judge and then all of a sudden he'll just be like, "Oh, that's awesome! Like we'll get the house." You know what I mean? Like it's definitely played up for laughs for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I loved about just the ambiguity of that main family, right? And the way that they like what they're doing, and Cece mentioned this right off the top, like what they're doing is objectively like really scummy, right? Like they
Yeah.
are just they're doing that because it's not just about what they're doing to the main family that they are essentially becoming the parasites of, but they also displace this housekeeper who has lived at this house for a long, long time and
Yeah.
was doing, from everything we can tell, like a really nice job. Now, we should, I mean, I don't know if we want to like kind of move the plot a little bit forward, but what's revealed and where this movie starts to get a little wackier is that the main housekeeper who gets ousted through the plotting of the family, she's the last to go, right? So they get the driver out of there, as Cece mentioned, with the underwear. Then they get the housekeeper out.
That's a scene too. Sorry, I know where you're going with this, but like that's a scene where they first, I think, start like really crossing the line, where like they find out she's allergic to peaches, and they're literally like shaving peach fuzz off, and she walks by and like sprinkles it on her, like.
Dude,
It was great though. It was
yeah.
so good.
It's a very complicated plan they're running.
Not as
to
good as
make this
later in the
woman-
movie, which we'll get to when she's straight up rubbing a fistful of peaches up in her grill.
Yes. In any event, so they get this woman fired. Now, this woman came with the house, right? So this rich family moves in. They
That's
inherit this woman.
That sounds weird, but I get it.
Well, no, but I mean that's like the way it's described in the film. And what we realize after this woman gets fired, she essentially comes to the house later after while the main family is out. And what we see is that she has to sneak down into the basement because her husband has been living in this basement for 4 years after he lost his job and then they didn't have anywhere else to live. So there's this extensive bunker. This is Korea, right? So they're worried about North Korean sort of nuclear attacks or whatever. And so they have this like panic room in the basement. And so he's living in there. And now you have this whole other basement dwelling class issue going on with this. I mean,
It's insane.
that guy,
And
he's
that
the
dude's
best.
real.
That
That
kid-
dude's real creepy looking too.
Yeah.
he's just awesome. Like he's
Okay.
the actor.
I found him
the
revolting, but
character's
okay.
great. No, but like it's just so well done,
He
right?
looked
Because
very
you
smelly.
feel bad for him. He's not like a out and out psycho, but he's definitely a little screw loose because he's been living underground for 4 years.
Yeah,
So
right. Yeah, which is weird. We should say. I like too the little vignette where she's like, when they were out of the house, he like comes up for fresh air. And she's like rubbing his back and like he's eating food.
It's not a bad life. Like I'm not,
But like it's funny. It's a funny movie. It's at times like goofy, kind of grotesque, but it's like there's this undercurrent of the way that the underclass sort of becomes invisible to the upper class, and it's kind of like and there's actually moments where they sort of show you the other side of that too, where the lower class has sort of dehumanized the upper class to a point where they're just okay, this family's just okay with like grifting all their money away from them, which like to be honest as a viewer I was like it's cool, go for it. But again it's like the interesting thing this movie is presenting to you is like who are you relating to, when is it you feel like the family's gone too far, and I don't think it gives you a lot of, I think it's really like offering it up to you to make those decisions, like, and that's what it does in its ambiguity is it's not making the judgment itself, and that's I think one of the most interesting things about it.
I mean, they do give hints of it. Like they keep harping on the fact that the con artist family smells. Like they make a big point of it, and like that in turn is eventually the thing that kind of makes them snap, and like what the father in the family kind of starts to notice that they're harping on, and like it's kind of like the thing that eventually makes him do what he does. I don't know
Right,
where
it's
I'm
just
going
like it's
with
like
that,
these
but
little it's like these little indignities that you
yeah,
suffer
Well,
at the hands of these rich people, like that to them are just these throw off comments, but to you just like cut to the bone.
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I was gonna say like it's not again even when that's happening, it's not you don't perceive it as the father the rich dad poor dad, the rich dad being an asshole. You're just kind of like yeah dude, like have some sympathy for the fact that this dude is like living in a basement, and I don't know it.
Well, they also don't know that because they've hidden the fact that like they're poor.
Yeah. No, well, no, I know. Yeah, exactly. So there's things that we know as the viewers that they
Yeah,
don't understand. But to Eric's point, that's like the depth that this movie has. That I don't know. It's super well drawn.
yeah, I agree.
Do we want to talk about the toilet that explodes with poop all over the place, or is that
Yeah, sure.
to me
Poop
that
comes out.
was might have been the funniest scene in the entire movie? Because and Eric, you sort of mentioned that a lot of the comedy here is like broad and like it look it kind of it translates beyond boundaries or borders, right? Like there's a sequence and where I would say this is kind of the turn of the third act. There is this rainstorm. This is when the family is all so the poor family's all in the house. They get sort of trapped there because the rich family comes home early from a trip while the poor family's been sort of partying. There's a huge rainstorm going on, so they go back to their basement dwelling after they escape the rich house, and it is just completely flooded. They live sort of, as Eric mentioned, in a urine alley. I think that's what you called it.
Yeah.
This toilet that is up on the pedestal or whatever the fuck. It's like on a windowsill. It's very strange, but because they're like sort of underground, it is just spewing sewage all over.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like a Muppet movie effect. Like it just kind of like randomly spews things, and there's just brown
Exactly.
liquid
Yeah.
spewing all over. And the daughter is sitting on the
Like
toilet. She
texting.
decides to, well, she's smoking. She then
She's
decides
smoking
to
a
smoke
cigarette, right?
cigarette. Yeah, and there's just like brown liquid shooting up.
It's like it's
I
like jets
couldn't
of like
believe it.
like she's sitting on it, it's just shit like spewing out of it. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
the moment, right, where they have just had the confrontation. They've just discovered that the housekeeper's husband was living into the house, and conversely they've been discovered as being grifters by the housekeeper, and they basically attacked them and locked him in the basement, and they go home and immediately this has happened. And so like this is the first time where the movie has literally rained consequences down on them. And so that's where I was kind of like,
Pun
huh,
intended.
okay, like interesting, because up until now this movie has really it felt like the movie kind of playing around with the idea of karma.
Would you say it started a shitstorm, Eric?
Sure, I might say that.
You get that, John? Because
It's a little on the nose, but I'll allow it.
not the best. I get it. Do we want to talk about the ending?
I don't think a lot of people have seen this. I think it's
Okay.
pretty not why. I mean, we could talk about kind of the setup, but I wouldn't talk about the whole thing.
A lot of people probably haven't seen it because it's getting a U.S. release on October 11th.
Mm,
So you
mm.
you should check this out. Is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Probably.
You know what the thing I thought was interesting, and it came up I think 2 or 3 times. Noticeably when they come home and the son decides that he's going to camp outside in the rain. And the I think the mother makes
Oh,
a
yeah,
comment
yeah,
that
yeah.
like, "Oh, don't worry about that tent. We got it from America."
Yeah.
And, like there was another
Which-
comment about I think his arrow set, and he said like, "Oh, it's very good quality. We got it from America."
Yeah.
Like I was,
Which is hilarious because that 100% means it was made in China, which is actually closer to
Yeah.
you than America. And
It's no, well, it comes up a lot as shorthand for quality. To Joe's point,
yeah,
yeah,
because the son and the poor son and the poor daughter both use it as sort of shorthand for where they like why they're so talented and smart because they studied in America. So one of them was like, I think one of them went to Chicago. They mentioned Chicago at some point.
yeah. One was in Illinois. One was like specifically in Chicago.
Yes. Yeah. You're right. Because that was they have the like little rhyme that reminds them.
Yeah.
So yeah, how they know each other. Yeah. I mean, you're right, Joe. Like that definitely it gets called out a couple times, and it's. I mean, look, there's probably like a deeper level of criticism on like Korean culture there because this mom, I do think the mom of the rich family is sort of the least flattering portrayal, right? Like she's
Hmm.
just
she's
she's a
pretty
stay-at-home
She's
mom.
pretty nice. She's just like oblivious. Although she does make
Yes.
some of the most offhanded comments about poor people.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
she
we
just
do get like that. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but
No,
like
no.
we get that scene where she's shopping for the party and like she's just kind of tossing stuff into the bag as the guy's holding it. Like she's very much, she more than I think anybody else sees them as help. Whereas the father, you kind of get these glimpses where he's confiding in the driver and like having like a real conversation with them. And the
Yeah.
mother definitely is like, "You're here to work," and like
Well,
don't
yeah,
get it twisted.
to me, she reads as someone who's never not been poor,
Yeah,
whereas the dad at
100%. Yeah.
least like understands that these are like other humans and that yes, there is employees, but
Yeah,
he
but
doesn't like
I think there's still a pretty strong hint of like patronizing coming from the dad.
Oh, for sure.
Especially, they're like talking and having heart to heart, and he's like, focus on the road. Like he's always kind of, it's like he loosens
Well-
up with him. He needs a confidant, but then he's always quick to sort of remind him of what his place is.
Yeah, I don't know. I was getting really nervous when the guy was driving and he kept looking back, and then so
Yeah.
I appreciated that the dad was like, "Yo, like you look at the road."
Those
Yeah.
conversations were some of the most fun in the movie to me because I liked watching the interplay between the two of them and the ways like, because the poor dad is essentially acting, right? And so he's like putting on this, kind of wise old driver shtick, and I liked watching the way he was manipulating the other guy because worked really well.
Hmm.
It's fun.
Agree. I would say that my favorite character, or the sort of the character that I don't know, you just kind of glom onto the most is the poor dad, right? Like
Yeah.
he's the
yep.
one. He's been with the director through all his films. I mean, he's just who the hell knows? He could be the frickin' Al Pacino in South Korea, but
The only thing I didn't buy in this movie, if I'm being honest, is the fact that so they hire the mother as like the nanny, and suddenly she's like a master chef. When in the
yeah,
be- when
she's
in
like
the,
a really good cook.
when in the beginning of the movie we see that they can't even afford food. So like, how would she
Yeah.
know how to cook all
Yeah.
this stuff? Like they were
Yeah.
eating like stale,
I
rotten
mean,
bread and
I
stuff.
don't know. You saw like when they're coming home and the wife calls and she's like, "We like I forget what the meal was," and like she immediately like Googles it and finds out
Well,
what goes in
yeah,
it, and
but
she ends up just using like a packet, which is probably what the housekeeper before that was doing too, and like they just don't know any better. Like I think,
Yeah.
I didn't
don't
catch
know.
that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really liked her. I thought
just
she was great.
no,
But
I
yeah,
thought
agree, the
I thought
father
she was funny too,
was-
but it was just a little weird, like because she also seemed like a very lazy, kind of nonchalant character, and then she's like, I did like that she got the haircut to look all
Mm.
like fancy, like a housekeeper,
Yeah. Yeah.
It was fun.
Okay, guys.
It was interesting, and then shit gets weird. People die. Goes crazy. It
Yeah,
kind of
I mean,
reminded
it's
me of
funny
like
because-
this wasn't a Korean film. I don't. I think it was Japanese, but like the first time I saw Audition, and I just really wasn't used to the way some of these Asian films are paced. And I remember being like, is something gonna happen in this movie, or like, and I maybe if I went back and watched Audition today, I'd like it, but I remember like super not liking it because it's like 90 minutes of nothing almost.
Well, and then it just goes complete bonkers crazy.
Yeah, and I mean the thing this has going for it is it's just funny throughout, so I
Yeah.
think it's a lot easier to stick with it.
The thing I'll say about the ending without discussing really the material, the what happens is it's pretty poignant, right? Like it's sentimental.
Yeah.
Which I actually really liked because it's the first time the movie gets. It is a comedy, and even the end is kind of it's darkly humorous, but it is sentimental, right? Like it's played very straight in a lot of ways, and it kind of lands the point of the rest of the film, or at least I don't know, 1 point for the rest of the film. So I don't know, I really liked it.
It good.
It is pretty good.
All right. Would you recommend this, John?
Yes.
Joe?
Yeah, very much.
Cece?
Yes.
I would also say yes. Plot twist. I liked the 2.5 hour subtitled movie. Watched it right to the end in one sitting, Joe.
Crazy. Like 10 years ago, if you would have told me this.
Oh, I know.
You know what I do with this now, though?
What are
like,
you talking about? 3 days ago.
I was going to say 3 days
That's
ago.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've learned this about myself in 2019. Like for movies like this, especially, I cannot start out watching this movie sitting on the couch, or it will be over in 10 minutes. So I sit at the table and I just get food and I just sit there at the table and like literally, it's the only way to keep my attention like laser focused. So it works.
John, this is the question though. Does this qualify for our year-end list?
Oh man, I was thinking about it.
If it gets a U.S. release in October, or is
Yeah,
it not?
yeah.
Is it just?
Oh,
a
I just mean
limited-
like horror-wise. Like we've disqualified other movies.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, look, I would say I won't tell you to not put it on. I don't know if I'm going to put it on mine because you're right. Like to me, this is right at the fringe. I don't know. Like I think about a movie like The Gift. Remember we watched The Gift?
That
Like,
was a straight up thriller. Yeah, we do
Yeah,
do
it's-
thrillers.
it's more thrillery. This because it's more of a comedy. I don't know. Like it doesn't feel as hard edged as something like The Gift, but it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's similar. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Because this definitely would make my list. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't know if it actually qualifies. I can't wait to see the end of the year and find out.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun reveal.
What will I think?
All right, guys. It's gonna do it for Parasite. Let's take a quick break so that we can do some fan mail.
Nasty weather got the little monsters uptight. Make it a blockbuster night. Blockbuster has something for everyone. Even the fussiest little beasts settle down to enjoy Blockbuster. I just love a family night. If the weather's a fright, make it a Blockbuster night.
Hey, I'm Lisa Zane from Nightmare on Elm Street, and you are listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
We're back. Last week, Joe forbade me from saying "and we are back" with the new music because he didn't like it.
It's tough. It's tough. Like I'm thrown off.
Well, I didn't say it, Joe. We are here to do fan mail. info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. Related, Joe. We only have one email this week. It's from Paul B, and he says the new intro music is lit.
Oh.
That's what
Is
the
that the
kids.
whole email?
That's what the kids say. Yeah, that's the
Did
whole.
you say? Is that from Pauly D? Is that who you said?
Yeah, the Guido himself.
DJ Paulie Del Vecchio. Did we talk about how the situation is out of jail?
A heart-long national
Joe,
nightmare
you've
is
been
finally
talking about
over.
it for weeks.
Yeah. Well, it's only been a week, John, since he got
He
out.
seems like he's really turned his life around, Joe. You know, I feel like he's only up from here.
I don't know if you've been watching this season, but
Lord.
Is
no.
it-
Stellar.
Hold on. The pictures that I saw on the you know, there's like headlines and then there's like a picture. He looks like hell. Like,
Tread
how
lightly,
old is
John.
he?
Tread lightly.
Well, he was the oldest person in that house to begin with, so he's a
Yeah.
little older than everybody, and all he does now is eat. It's actually I haven't watched a lot of the new show because it's just not that great. But what I did
Because
watch.
it makes you feel sad on the
Well,
inside.
it's not great. But what I did watch, the best part is like, it's a literal storyline about how he eats like an inhuman amount of food now because it's
Yeah.
just his only vice he has because he's clean. And so like he'll sit down for dinner and just order like 4 human meals and just eat it all himself. It's really great. And he's always like, "Hey, can we get takeout?"
It's not like a weird fight. Like, you made it sound like it was like a weird
No,
vice.
though
and
he
just
makes
eats
it.
shitload-
Joe,
Wow.
Joe can back me up on this. He makes it
based
weird.
on the G chat for this episode, Eric thinks a lot of things are
Yeah.
taboo.
No, he makes it weird. I think Joe could agree with me on that.
We were holding hands in public.
All right, guys.
Little
I'm
risque.
glad I
You
learned
could
some.
see her angles.
Glad I learned some things about you guys this week. Anyway, info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address.
We could go a lot deeper. Trust
Nah.
me.
Hold on. Did Jared not email us? He indicated that he was going to email us with some fun
No, he never
sort
did.
of Korean
I
trivia.
also I
God
doubled
damn it.
up and asked him to, and I've also now sent him a message on Slack saying, "Hey, are weird toilets
What's up
4
with this
feet
toilet?"
in the air a thing in Korea?" And he never wrote back. So
Yeah, I mean, it is like 12 hours time difference.
Yeah, I was gonna say
so,
time difference.
I don't
so
care.
It's probably in the tubes on its way over. It just hasn't gotten here yet.
He's at work right now. Like, his workday is starting.
Joe,
right
are you positing that it's busy crossing the Atlantic Ocean right now? Actually,
Exactly. Yeah,
Pacific, probably.
it's making the way through the channel or whatever.
Channel tonight at 9. Good times. Good times.
Holy shit.
Seinfeld, Joe, coming to Netflix in 2021.
2021.
I'm
Can't
already-
wait. Oh, should we talk about Mr. Boogedy coming to Disney Plus?
So I'm scrolling down through so Disney Plus today released their like whole catalog they're gonna have, and I find this movie called Mr. Boogedy. This movie, Joe, has been like my horror fan holy grail.
Oh, first thing I looked for, like no
Like-
joke, when they announced Disney Plus, the first thing I said to Leslie was, "Do you think they'll have the Mr. Boogedy movie?"
I think if you're around our age, right? If you grew up in the 80s or 90s, I think we all had a really similar experience where, you know, at some point in the 2000s when search engines started getting really good, we started going and video sites started becoming a thing. We started going like, oh, what's this like thing that I watched when I was a kid? Like I want, you know what I mean? And it was always like, it's gotten to the point where like any vague memory you have, if you just like try hard enough, you'll find it. And now you don't even really have to try that hard because the hive mind is so good at it. But like this is the last real like scrap of pop culture for me that like I remember this guy's face. So what it is it was like a Sunday night Disney. They used to do like the Wide World of Disney or whatever. It was on ABC. Michael Eisner would do these really corny intro things. He was running Disney at the time. And then they'd show a movie, and they would do these like cheesy made-for-TV movies, and they made this thing like about a family that moves into a house that like this magician used to live in, and now the magician's haunting the place. And it's so funny looking back on it today on Slack. So it's gonna be on Disney Plus is the overall thing. But Joe, this movie terrified me when I was a kid. It came out in 1986, so I was like 4 when it came out, and
The guy is kind of scary. Like I was what,
he
like
looks
11
like
or something.
he might
like
have leprosy.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't look
a
good.
lot of
Like,
boils.
the actor actually has leprosy, you're
it's
saying?
it's
or-
unclear. It's unclear. But yeah, so I'm really excited. I think we might do a show on this show.
Oh, I would love to.
There was a
So great.
sequel too.
Yeah, the Mr. Boogedy Rides Again or something
See,
like
and
that.
I always thought it was called The Boogeyman. Is there like another movie called The Boogeyman?
I'm sure there's one out there. Yeah.
There's
Oh, yeah,
there's
1980.
definitely a boogie. I think it's just called Boogeyman, the movie. I don't know.
Hmm.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
not
there
gotta be.
is a movie called The Boogeyman from 1980. Maybe this was one of those things too.
I mean, I don't know. The Black Cauldron's gonna be on there. We did a show on a lot of real
There's-
exciting stuff.
Yeah, there's an '05 movie called Boogeyman as well.
Joe, well, I'm not talking about that one, John, because I was a grown adult when that one came out.
Okay.
Joe, also, Joe, your favorite and mine, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, maybe the greatest Disney movie ever made.
Very excited.
A-
Angela Lansbury, quite the looker when she was younger.
A movie in which, if you haven't seen it, Angela Lansbury, who's a witch, Cece, this is important for your people.
Yes.
She repels a Nazi invasion of England by animating medieval suits of armor to fight them. And,
Yep.
this,
Amazing.
and this is just the finale. Like, there's a whole movie where they go to some cartoon land, and they play a soccer match, and there's a scary lion, and then they're under the water. It's a thrill ride, Joe.
It's a
I've
great
seen the
movie.
movie
Big fan.
probably 10 times.
It's
And
incredible.
the only thing I can remember is the actual bed that flies and like how they make it fly with the song.
Yeah,
and
they fly in the bed. Yep, and then there's so the suits of armor, like, they fight off the Nazis, and then at the end, like, the magic runs out, and they all go, and they shrink down. It's one of the coolest effects, John. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's always what I think of when I'm tired, because they just kind of
That-
melt into the ground.
It's a good one.
There you go.
It's a great movie. We had it on, like, taped off of HBO when we were kids.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Should we do some tweets?
Disney Plus. There's tons of shit on there, Joe, that I just forgot existed. Like they did so many direct-to-video sequels to all their big animated movies and stuff.
There's so many movies on there that like I watched as a kid and completely forgot about. Like, The Computer Wears Tennis Shoes.
I've never heard of that.
Like,
Yeah,
The Cat from Outer Space. Like there's all these weird, just like
Black Hole.
talking dogs and like
The black
the
hole.
black holes on
Yeah.
there. Yep.
That one's a trip
Great
if you've never seen that one.
Great stuff. Great stuff. But tweets. Let's talk about tweets because those are great too. We monitor 2 hashtags over at Twitter. First one being BGH Classics. That's you're listening to an episode. Some tickles your fancy. You want to send it in? We'll read it. We'll give you a little shout out. First one from our good friend Flora. That's at Flora Duhan. Just by existing, this movie is a spoiler in that it spoils your life. That was Eric from episode 84, Shriek of the Mutilated.
Oh,
Mark-
come on, that's too easy.
Low-hanging
I actually
fruit.
would guess which movie it was.
Mark Newell pick there.
Oh, was that him? That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. This next one from our good friend Mi Corazon Mi Amor. That's Monica, who will be in Chicago this weekend for the big get-together. This is a John quote. The first Mortal Kombat is really pretty crappy. Mark simply replies, fuck off. And Eric joins in with you go to hell and you die. Episode 133, Resident Evil Afterlife.
I stand by that.
Yep.
Resident Evil Afterlife, by the way, incredible film.
Not bad. We got another one from Monica. Oh, excuse me. Did I interrupt your money bath? That was Eric talking to John. Episode 187, 11, 11, 11. Remember that movie?
Nope. I remember literally nothing.
I couldn't tell you one thing about that
Other
movie.
than it was directed by Darren Lynn Bousman.
Oh God, I don't even remember that. There's like a conspiracy, and it's the end of the world potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, it has something to do with like an end of the world cult or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
came out on the date 11/11/11.
Yeah.
I presume. I mean, I don't know why else you would make that movie.
I think there was another movie, 11, like there was 2 of them, right?
No, come on.
No, there was another
You
11, 11,
stop it.
11.
No, there was
100%.
not. No,
Look
there
it
wasn't, Joe.
up. Look it up while I'm reading the next one.
Ay.
Next
gonna
up
look
from our
it
good
up.
friend Skizbot. Eric, while discussing Rob Zombie's Halloween, what do you think the mask smells like? And this was an Andy episode, and he replied, sourdough. Episode 217, The Dark Knight Rises.
Wow, it wasn't even the episode about the movie.
No.
Oh, Jesus Christ. How did we get onto that?
Last but not least, another one from our good friend
Joe,
Flora.
sorry, Joe. There was in 2011. There was a movie called 11/11/11 that looked like a shitty rom-com.
Right?
So I guess you're technically
Oh,
right.
come on.
Technically, you're right.
You're welcome. So anyway, Flora, last one for BGH Classics. If it is live action, that could be the greatest disaster ever. And that was Eric on episode 31, The Happening, talking about the news of M. Night directing a Last Airbender movie.
Oh,
Prescient.
Holy shit!
Very prophetic.
I'm a freaking
Yeah.
genius.
Jumping over to
You
our other...
and anyone else could have predicted that.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
let's
then we
not
also
forget.
used
Sorry, let's not forget we were reviewing The Happening while that was said. So,
You
sorry,
guys
Joe.
good? You done?
Continue. Joe.
No.
Happening was the
Go
first
ahead.
episode I ever listened to of you guys.
Oh, there you go.
Perfect. All right, we use the hashtag AskBGH. That's if you're listening and want to send in a question or whatever, need life advice, want to talk about the movie, you can use that. First up from Dilly D. Williams. I like that. Have you guys watched the Shudder movie Beelzebub? Beelzebub?
Beelzebub.
Jesus
No, it's
Christ.
Belz.
No, let's keep trying.
I have not finished it, but it's pretty good and pretty creepy. I'm assuming no one's watched that, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Negative.
So that's a no. I have seen a few people talking about it though, and I think it is supposed to be pretty good. Next up
I'll
from
put it on the list.
That Baseball Joe, when will Mark come back as a special host? I'm saying never, right? Like that's just what we're...
Probably never. Yeah, that's my guess. Maybe someday. Who can say?
Yeah, we'll see. That's no knock against Mark.
I'm glad we just shot it straight on that one though. Let's just be
I'm
honest.
just realistic in my old age, Joe.
Yeah. It's no knock against him. Like I don't
How about never?
I'm just
That's never so you.
I'm just assessing the situation in front of me. That's all.
Next up from at Dirty Bennett, that's our good friend Clay. This one's more of just a chiming in. He sent us a picture of his two adorable dogs, and I don't even mean that sarcastically. The one on the right is Veda. She pooped on the carpet. The one on the left is Gus. He ate the poop. Great Dane problems. Help me, life coach Joe. These children are driving me crazy. I don't know what the problem is. You had a mess. One cleaned it up.
Oh. Wait, are they Great Danes? You gotta send the link to the tweet, please, Joe.
Yeah, they are adorable looking. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat while I read the next one. Use the copy. Oh, no, I scrolled up now too far. Next up from Bruno the Weber. I assume Bruno. It's a nice name. Speaking of movies with subtitles, have you heard about the awesome Brazilian movie Bacurau? It was awarded and praised like hell in Cannes, and I hear a lot of people saying it's a mix of Brazilian cinema and John Carpenter. Would love to hear an episode on it.
Wait, how do you spell it? Just spell it, Joe. I don't need you to pronounce it again.
Bacurau.
R-A-U. All right, cool. Yeah, it's on the
How would you
list.
pronounce that, John?
I don't know. I don't do Portuguese.
Baruco?
Bacurau? Bacurau? I don't know.
Baccarat?
Yeah, it's like that.
I believe it's a documentary on Burt Baccarat. What the world? One more for Bruno. Also, I just saw Midsummer. White people are crazy.
It's true. It's very true.
Oh, Bruno.
Although one of the guys in that is African American.
He's British, so not exactly, but okay.
Wait, what? No.
In Midsummer?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about the guy from.
There's the-
Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about the
You're
guy.
right, there
You're
is
talking
a
about the guy
British
from The
guy.
Good Place. There's a British couple.
Oh, right. You're right. Actually, isn't the guy from The Good Place? He's Australian or something, isn't he?
No, he's American.
Is
They're
he?
all they're all
All right.
students at the same thing.
All right. Next up from Professor Old School. That's at COW Flanagan. Dear colleagues, allow me to pose a query. What's the longest you ever sat on the toilet? One time I ate 2 meaty prices, and that slid out of me for 3 hours. Much love. Oh, I see.
I like how
How's
this
it
guy
even
keeps.
possible?
I like how this
Like,
guy
was
keeps.
it continuous for 3 hours?
I like how this
have a
guy
lot of
keeps. He keeps changing his display name so that he might trick us into reading
I
this.
realized who this was.
I don't know. I ate a lot of fiber, so not that long. Maybe half an hour.
I'll tell you, this keto thing, or like just the low carb,
It's not good for you, Joe. There's no way on earth it's good for you.
I've dropped like 16 pounds.
What does that mean?
You
So?
look great. I was waiting to tell you in person next week.
Thanks,
but
buddy.
this week, yeah.
You dropped 16 pounds because your body's literally eating itself.
Yeah, Whatever. It works.
That's the diet working.
Next up from our friend Lori, that's at Nyla von Dallinger. Is anyone else obsessed with the Great British Baking Show?
Yes.
I know it seems so tame for a horror fan, but old Greg is one of the hosts. He's weird, right?
I don't love the new host, if I'm being honest. I love the Great British Baking Show so much that I have a lot of thoughts about the new host versus the old ones. But
It's the new host, the guy from the Mighty Bush. That's
I guess, yeah, he's some big lanky looking comedian dude. And then like the original hosts were just delightful, and I think what happened was I don't know. I'm sure our British listeners can tune us in, but from my understanding, like it was always on I think the BBC or something, which is kind of similar to like PBS sort of here, John. Like
it is a
public
publicly
broadcasting,
funded,
so it's different, and like
broadcaster.
it became super successful, and then it got bought by a network, and they wanted to kind of like make it a bigger thing. And I guess for whatever reason, the original co-host didn't come along. They kept let's put it this way, they kept the one host on the show that I could have done without, which is the main guy.
What's his name? Hollywood.
Paul Hollywood, yeah. They got rid of Mary
see, I
Berry,
like
John,
Paul.
who's a treasure. But anyway, it's an incredible. It's like if you need some self-care, if you need to just like tune something on to try to get your mellow back, there is nothing better. And it's one of the few things I can stream on Netflix that I can actually watch around my children because I know there's no cursing in it. So
No, I agree. I love it. I mean, look, the host changes. I had a bigger problem with what was her name, Mary Berry, the like not Paul, like the other baking. When she isn't like she was the bigger loss in my mind.
yeah, I agree. They're
whatever
all
the comedy hosts, like the other two were. I agree. The original cast is the best.
I see. I don't think
But
the
I don't
two
have
new
as
ones
big a
are
problem with the new
funny
guys.
at all. So
no.
that's my.
Is it
problem.
Noel Fielding is the guy's name? I really like him. I think he's really funny.
I'm fine with him. I would prefer the original, but I'm fine with
The
him.
show's
He's
still good. I mean, what's cool about it is like, because I've had people ask like, well, what is different about this? Like, if this was an American reality show, like they would have the people at each other's throats. Like these people would be fighting. They'd be like messing with each other's like cakes on purpose. Like what's nice about it is it's just like, it's very happy and they're just friends. And at the end, everybody hugs. And then when somebody gets voted off, they all cry. And it's like a real human show, which is why I like it.
Have you all seen the God, what's the crafting reality?
Oh, I was
show?
about to say that's exactly what it sounded like to me with I don't Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman, right?
Yeah. That they basically are trying to follow the Great British Bake Off or baking show formula, but Americanize it a little bit. But they're going 100% the like nice friendly route. It's actually pretty good. We watched the first season. I don't even know if they did a second
The
season.
second season is making it is the name of it. There's supposed to be a second season, but it has not happened yet. I loved it. Like I thought it was very sweet. I liked it. Like they give out patches and stuff. Like it's
cute.
Yeah.
Cece, it's all about art. If you haven't seen it, you gotta.
No,
check it out.
I didn't even know it was a thing. I need to check this out.
It's really good.
it's
Oh,
pretty cute.
season 2, December 2019, so a couple months away.
Well, that's the problem when you pick hosts that have like more active careers outside of these reality shows. Is like, yeah, like they might want to be doing other stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's nice because it just seems like they're two friends who like wanted to do a show like this, so it's just kind of like lighthearted. It's nice. But anyway, we should move on. Next up, a question from Skizbot. Word is Paramount is working on a remake of the Insano 90s quote-unquote classic Face Off. Who would you cast as the two main leads?
John
Here's
Travolta,
hoping
Nicolas
for a Michael
Cage.
Shannon, William Dafoe mashup.
Oh
we
my
all deserve.
god. Yes.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That is
I don't
really
think
good.
I can beat that.
That's
The
pretty.
movie doesn't need to be remade. I did see
No.
this news as well and was distressed by it.
John,
Well, and-
movies half its age have been remade.
Yeah.
No, I mean I understand that other movies have been remade, but it's like I don't know. It's not even that popular a film. Like I
Wasn't
don't know.
that
I mean,
directed by like John Woo or something?
yeah, it's a John Woo movie. Yeah. There's no reason. Like you don't even need to remake it. Just make the exact same movie and call it something different, and people will be like, "Oh yeah, that's like that old movie Face Off."
Guys, what
Don't
if
call it a remake.
what if you made a sequel, got the original actors back, and had them swap faces back?
But like,
Oh.
you could
Yeah.
you could
One
actually
of
do
them
it
dies
medically.
in the movie.
You could
Oh,
call it.
spoiler alerts,
You,
Susan.
you could call it face back on.
No, I would say you actually hire trained medical professionals to really swap their faces
Yeah,
because they
do it.
both had so much plastic surgery that
you could just
Wow.
you wouldn't even
just
notice.
pop it off like a Lego guy and just stick it on.
Yeah.
Or what if you go like with the Olsen twins, and they do it, and it's just like
Same
oh,
person.
Or just
I can't tell the difference.
why are we going through all this recovery time? We look the same. This was awful.
I'm with Joe actually.
I'll be honest,
I'm
I'm not sure I've ever seen that movie.
Twins.
I'm not sure I've ever actually seen that movie more than just like snippets on cable.
Oh my
Oh,
god,
dude.
we watched it like I don't know a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago, and it is still as ridiculous. the
Honestly,
first
if I'm
time I
going
watched
for
it.
a
I've seen it
90s
50 times.
if I'm going for a 90s cage action movie, it's Con Air every day all day.
Yeah, but
Oh,
like
yeah,
Face
you can't
Off is
argue
so
that.
good for Cage because I mean it really like that craziness that he can lean into is like
Yeah.
I mean it's
Yeah.
front and center.
Face.
So I would go The Rock. The Rock is my
I was
number
about to say
one.
The
No,
Rock.
The
I wanna
Rock
sleep on
and
that.
yeah, I would say for me it's Con Air 1, Rock 2.
Like Face
Con Air
Off
is crazy.
and The Rock were like prime summer drive-in. Like when I was a senior in high school, like we saw those movies probably like 40 times just going to that place because you could drink.
Yeah, it's true.
There you go.
That is the thing I've heard about drive-ins.
Yeah, I like it. All right, last but not least, from our good friend Christian, that's at ShineMaster9000. At what time of the year is it appropriate to bust out the Halloween decorations on your yard? I'm in the mid-late September kind of person. I'm a mid-late September kind of person myself. I have been like hounded Leslie that like we should be putting this stuff up now.
Yes.
I think September
Kyle's
1st.
making me wait until October 1st, but I've been trying since now.
I finally got Leslie to break down because a few other people in her neighborhood have done it. So if I get home and I'm not completely hungover on Sunday, I think I can start putting stuff up.
Yeah, it's September 1st.
That's
I mean,
ambitious.
a lot of it depends on your relationship with your neighbors. But I mean, I think in the house September 1st, and then maybe wait a little bit for the outdoor stuff. But just do you, man. You do you.
My kids have been asking about it, which is humorous. We live in an apartment, so like we're obviously not decorating the exterior of our home, but
Can you put stuff on your balcony, John? Can you put like little spooky lights?
yeah, we could do lights. And you're supposed to do your door if you are participating in trick or treating. So we'll put something on the door. at
Oh
some
yeah, we
point.
don't. There's no trick or treating here. I haven't had trick or treaters in like years at this point.
We get trick or treaters, but like we're usually out. With
I'll be
our kids.
honest, it's
Yeah.
fine because I have dogs who don't like when a doorbell is being rang. Like the one year we were in the house and we went like all out for like Halloween, my dog peed everywhere because she was freaking out of just like
Your dog.
people.
Where is this liquid coming from?
Yeah.
I sat on the front porch waiting on trick or treaters, but then they were all scared of Brody.
Oh.
But she wanted to meet them. She was like super stoked, and they were like, "Oh no!" So I had to put her
Yeah.
up. It made me sad.
I'm very excited. We got a smoke machine or a fog machine this
Nice,
year.
dude.
I
That's
got like a inflatable like ghost thing. Every year we try and add like a couple things. And this year I finally got to get my fog machine. Very excited.
Oh my god.
Last year we went on a binge of watching Home Improvement Halloween episodes. That's what you made me think of when you said the smoke machine because they had some of the best.
Yeah. Roseanne always had the best Halloween
Roseanne and
episodes.
Home Improvement, good times. All right, guys.
I thought you were talking about home improvement shows, like on HGTV.
No,
Yeah.
Tool Time with Tim the Toolman Taylor, John. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I follow.
Although I do love like those bake-off shows they have on the Food Network around this time of year, where they just make like spooky cakes and stuff.
Real quick, John. Fred writes in. He wants to know how come there hasn't been any mention of Lighthouse in our upcoming horror releases. I saw the trailer for this, and honestly, I was like, maybe, but it might be sophistical territory.
Mm.
But
Yeah, so
it looks
this
like it might
is-
qualify. Also, I look like a movie Joe might quit the show over, if I'm being honest.
I don't know. I'm weird. I might get into it.
No, well, so this is the second film of I think is his name Dave Eggers? What's the guy's?
Yeah, the guy who did
Rob-
the witch.
Robert Eggers.
Robert,
Dave Eggers is the writer. The Lighthouse. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely this is another movie that's sort of like the Parasite. I think they're having trouble marketing it because my guess is it's not going to be super horror-y, but it's definitely
It looks like
thriller.
It looks funny because, like in
Like
the trailer, there's this scene. So I got the trailer before It Chapter 2, and like there's a scene in the trailer where they're literally just like they're like what? He's like they're trying to freak each other out, and he's like what what? And they're just screaming what at each other, and I'm like,
Yeah.
holy shit, what is this movie?
Yeah, I don't think it's meant to be funny. I got a feeling it's like weird, like psychological.
Well,
Yeah, I
so
don't know,
it
dude.
is. So the theatrical release date is October 18th. So we'll. I mean, look, we got open spots in the calendar, so we'll get it this year. I don't know. I think we should probably put it on the show.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna make it to the theater for that. to be honest.
last
Like
but
that.
not least, John, as our Duke expert, thumbs up or down on Daniel Jones replacing Eli Manning? That's what he wants. That's what he wants to know.
I mean, up. Like, Eli Manning is a friggin' corpse on the field, so I don't know. I'm not a Giants fan, so
He sucks.
I don't
Eli Manning's the worst, so it's probably for the best. All right, guys. That's gonna do it for our discussion on Parasite. Mere days away from the meetup. Get all that information at bloodygoodhorror.com. And we're not sure what we're doing next week, but we'll figure it out. Keep an eye on the socials. That's gonna do it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.